Hello, welcome to What She's Thinking. I'm your host, Greg Schwartz, your coach for online dating. I'm asking a group of women questions on dating, sex, and other topics, all submitted by men like you. To get your questions answered, go to makeonlinedatingfun.com/questions. So here's the interview.
All right, so my name is Jay, and what I do for a living is I am a fitness director, and I also am a professor at the University of San Francisco. And what I'm passionate about is music and acting and pretty much everything creative. And I would say fun facts about me. I was on a show, A Dating Story, a long time ago, which is perfect for this podcast.
Totally.
I sang at Carnegie Hall for 3 years when I was living in New York. I'm an East Coaster, which is probably why I'm blunt and let's just get to the point. Oh, I'm super passionate about coaching people in a variety of different programs. I'm loud. I'm a Leo. I totally am childlike and believe everything should be fun. And if it's not fun, I'm not really interested in doing it.
I'm Lene, Dr. Lene St. John. I am a sex and relationship coach, blogging online as The Mama Sutra at themamasutra.net. I also help parents talk to their kids openly and honestly about sex. I kind of used to joke that going back to study sex for my graduate degree was because I was always stuck in my adolescence in kind of like the mind of a 14-year-old boy all the time, but as a woman, I always was thinking dirty jokes or things like that. That was always me growing up. And so going into study sex was just sort of a natural thing for me. But I'm also kind of a gadget geek. I guess up until the iPad, I was like one of those bleeding edge people. I always had to have the latest tech, but kind of lost it after the iPad. Maybe because of the iPad.
I can relate on both those points.
I guess personality-wise, sometimes, I'm a total brat, actually. I can say that and state that with confidence, that I'm a brat. If you try to tell me what to do, I'm definitely going to do the other thing, just to be like that. I grew up in the Midwest, Minnesota born, Iowa bred, or no, I guess it's be raised. And then I went to school in Wisconsin. But I've lived in New York City, I've lived in Germany, and then now I live in California. So I've kind of been everywhere.
So what's a good first date activity? What's one that's boring or overdone?
I think a good first date activity is something that's something fun where you can communicate with the person, but that also has the opportunity to be short enough that if you guys both decide you don't like each other, you can leave.
Definitely, yeah.
That's a good one. So I've thought about this one recently. I think my favorite first date activity is going to an arcade. I like finding something that's it's got a little competitive nature to it because I find that that's also how I am. But to go to an arcade or go-karting or, do something active. Somebody also asked recently, what's something good to do in the fall or in the winter? And I was like, well, there's lots of things to do outside. I guess it depends on what part of the country you're in. But apple picking, it's probably way past that season now for most of the country. But apple picking, going on a hike, doing something outdoors. But it's important to figure out what the other person is interested in, because you might find a woman who's super femme and, always wearing high heels and makeup and, fully done up. She might not be the type that wants to go on a hike. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to gauge the person, and maybe when you're trying to figure out what first date to do, to say, here are some ideas, what sticks, right? What are you particularly interested in?
Nice. So what are your top 2 languages of love?
I remember mine being, one of them is acts of service, but I can't remember the other one.
That's okay.
My 2 top love languages are words of affirmation and quality time. Physical touch used to be at the top, but it seems like right now I'm in a phase where words of affirmation and quality time are neck and neck.
Nice. And how do you really like it when guys or I should say, what do you really like men to do to really speak to those languages of love for you? Or speak in those languages is maybe a better way to say it.
So for me, the biggest part is, and I get dinged for this because it's not something I do all the time, the quality time one in particular, where I have my phone on and it's in my hand when we're like sitting down watching a movie. But I like it when my partner puts away the phone. Put it down and we can finish watching whatever show we're watching on Netflix. But like for me, that's the quality time. When you can set that aside, that's amazing.
Nice.
For me, because acts of service, so I tend to never ask for help, but I need it. But I'm not going to ask you for it. So like if you see, it's okay, you can laugh. If you see me, I don't know, if you hear me say like, I don't know, that I need all these things done or that I need help with something. And if you ask me for help, I won't. I'll be like, no, I'm fine. But if you just did it, I'd be so thankful.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
What's a way you like for a man to create connection on a date with you?
I would say asking questions.
Yeah.
Like that shows like, to me, that would show like you're curious about like who I am and what I'm up to in my life.
Mm-hmm. Are there specific kinds of questions, or is there a way of asking questions that works well versus doesn't?
Well, I wanted to add on to that first because that's 100% for me as well. Being able to connect by asking questions. There have been plenty of dates I've been on where the guy just talks about himself and there's no engagement where he shows any interest in what I'm doing or who I am, right? Like that first date where they just sort of take over and talk about themselves. I guess it's just a matter of finding a topic that you have an interest in and then seeing if your partner or if your date knows anything about that, or just asking them, what kind of book have you read? What movie have you seen recently? Just trying to find something to engage on.
One thing I've noticed too is I feel like men get hypersensitive when women ask them questions. And there's a huge difference between asking someone a question and being questioned. You know what I mean?
Say a little more about that. What's the difference for you?
Like, I'm not asking you a question because I am like drilling you or like I'm not a cop, I just am curious. Like, consider maybe I'm actually curious about you and your life and like what you're up to. It's not like I have a list where I'm like, check. Like, if I'm asking something, it's truly because I am genuinely, authentically wanting to know about it versus, crossing things off my agenda.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I wonder if the men who get really offended or get on the offensive about that, if, like, what was their relationship growing up with being asked questions? Like, did their parents not have very good boundaries and were always asking them questions that they felt like they needed to be guarded about? Or, yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I would wonder about that too. That is an interesting
It's almost
thing.
like a trigger sometimes for certain people.
But so what I'm hearing is him asking questions to you is definitely a way to feel connected. And then also there's a good chance you're going to be asking him questions back and having him take that as interest rather than you, I think you said interrogating him.
Yeah. Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Yes. Nice. So then I guess since guys are probably going, okay, so ask questions. What do I ask about? So what topics do you like to talk about on a first date?
I mean, the easy stuff for me is like asking about movies, asking about Netflix, what are you watching right now? What are you listening to? What are you, just sort of asking that question about, what have you been up to?
I'm worse. I say worse because I would be like, well, what are like the 3 things that you're most proud of in your life? Or like, what are you the most passionate about? And just see what they said.
Oh, that's not worse. That's better.
I don't know. It's like one of those, I ask those questions that people are like, oh,
well,
why'd they have to ask that?
Great first date questions because you're really kind of getting at some really deep stuff. It's not just
just like what they're all about.
Are surface. It's like the easy in, like, let's start talking about something.
And I think there's definitely men that would be like, oh, yeah, okay, I can do the easy stuff, no problem. And there'd be men that are like, I'm so tired of talking about my favorite kind of music. But like, what are you passionate about? That lights them up.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't call that worse. It's just different.
Different. Okay.
Yeah.
Deeper.
Exactly. How is your dating life affected by your career and your work?
I would say it depends. So with my job, like when certain deadlines are coming up, that's first. especially if it's a first date, maybe if I've been dating you for a really long time and I can like explain like, okay, I have this amount of time, but it doesn't mean that I'm not interested in you, that kind of thing.
For the longest time, I wouldn't tell people what I did at all. As a sexologist, immediately it was either going to be, oh, what are you going to teach me? Or some sort of like notch in the bedpost, definitely hook up just to be able to say they slept with a sexologist or whatever. But like that tend to get in the way. So for the longest time, I didn't tell anyone what I did. I just said I was an educator. Mm-hmm. And that seemed boring enough that nobody really asked more. Nobody asked more. Okay. And I was laughing because recently I was reminded that the first time I told the guy I'm dating now what I did, it was like date 4. And I'd invited him to a book signing. But the book signing was for a sex book. I didn't. And then the truth came out. Yeah, I didn't put 2 and 2 together because it was such a natural thing for me to take. I was going to go to the thing anyway. Do you want to come along? And his face was kind of like totally puzzled with this kind of like, where am I kind of look. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. So yeah, that's impacted dating for sure. But being able to find somebody who, for him, being able to talk about sex or, whatever, it was just sort of like, it was no big deal. So as long as it's no big deal, then we're good.
I actually totally relate. Being a dating coach is something I often did not bring up on the first or second date because it would have similar effects of either, freak out or like, tell me everything you know. Yes. And sort of like this, neither of these is what I want on a date. Like, let's connect, not talk about, like, let me teach you things. Yeah. So I totally understand. So how can we as guys tell when you're not interested in us?
Okay. For me, this one is, it depends on where I've been in my life. And what I mean by that is when I was younger and sort of more needy, I would respond to any and every text, right? And so immediately you knew I wasn't interested because I wasn't answering back, right? But I find now that it's more, I don't know, it's a more nuanced thing. You're going to know I'm not interested because if there's been an interaction we've had where something didn't go great, I'm going to tell you. I'm likely going to say, hey, when we talked about this thing, and just sort of break it down a little bit instead of ghosting or, disappearing like I used to. I would totally disappear for a few days. And to me, that's a respect thing.
We definitely appreciate that.
I would say to ask. I think that goes both ways. Like I've been on dates where I thought they went really well. And then there was something that I've said that offended somebody else. Like, right, you just never talk about it. Or where, I don't know, maybe the person's really interested in me and I don't feel the same way. So I feel like maybe there's like this sounds so lame, but like a recap, like, hey, like, how did you think that went? Like, would you like to go out again? Like, what did you see that was great about it? Or what was something that like, I don't know, is missing from it that maybe we aren't a good match?
I think the reason guessing the reason why this got submitted is that probably this guy keeps getting blindsided with, oh, that was a great date. And then she won't, answer his text. So he doesn't really know when he should ask would be my supposition. So what do you think would be some of the signs he should look for of like, okay, maybe she's not as interested. And now maybe I should ask rather than just flat out asking her on another date. And then she ghosts.
I would say ask what you want when you want to know. Like, just be super bold, even if you're terrified, and just say, I really like you. I'd like to ask you on another date. I don't know how you feel about that. Like, what do you think? Versus like playing these games of like, are they going to write me back? Are they going to call me back? Or are they going to write me back? So, yeah. And then it just makes it simple. It's black and white in a sense versus living in this. Because that's awful. Like that feeling of reaching out to somebody and then having them not reach back to you and then they may pop up. Like,
And I think the nuance that you're describing is not just, hey, I want to go on a second date, but hey, I want to take you on a second date. How does that sound to you? Is that the distinction you're making there? Of
Yeah,
not simply
and really
asking
say,
her,
you
but-
might be able to even say, like, add into it, like, just know if you're not interested, I'm okay with it. I just wanted to ask. You know, just because they might feel, I don't know, women are weird sometimes. They might say yes, and then they ditch you, and that's dumb. They just be like bold and be like, I'm not.
Well,
this isn't a good match.
I wanted to add on to what you said too, because when there are times where a guy is upfront like that, sometimes women get kind of freaked out or weirded out, and they don't know how to respond. It's not just the guy; it's also the woman, because right, like women can be weird too.
Yeah,
but I think it boils down to, you know, if you're asking for what you want, and the woman you're interested in isn't respectful of the fact that you're asking for what you want, she's not your person.
totally.
Because if you can't be direct and you're dancing or she's dancing around this thing, move on to somebody else, because she's got stuff she's got to figure out.
And guys, I know that sounds like, what? I worked so hard to find this person.
Yeah.
That is a limiting belief you have of this is the only match you've got.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
And I totally get that. It's a thing. And that's why they're saying to move on, because this person isn't a good match no matter what you're going to do with her.
Yeah.
100%. And in the beginning, it's always the best. So if they're already being like crappy with you in the beginning, the odds of them being better later are slim.
Truth.
that it, for the listeners, just got some real amused and laughter on this end. So could you rate your sex drive compared to the average woman's?
It's going to ebb and flow. I would say now it's probably less than it was, but comparing it to other people, I don't know that I can really compare it.
I would agree with that. Like, I've never even asked a girl this question before, so I wouldn't be able to say, like, hey. But for me personally, I know that my sex drive has changed depending on the partner that I'm with. Yeah. So there are certain people that I've dated in the past where it's like, I couldn't wait to rip off all their clothes. And then there were other people where it was like, all right, well, I guess we should make out. Just being really honest. But it was like, it wasn't that like, holy crap, I can't wait until I like get you someplace so that I can take advantage of you. Versus like, all right. So definitely more about the person. And I don't see that has changed regardless of my age, to be honest.
How is your libido or your sex life affected by your career and your work, particularly around like work stress or, assignments or things like that?
I think my career has actually helped me figure out more like the self-care stuff that I need, which does affect my libido. If I'm able to relax and take it easy and meditate or whatever, like I'm able to get better into my body. Also, there's a lot of different embodiment exercises you could do that can help you sort of get back into your body. But I don't know that for being a sexologist, it's like it is seriously talking or discussing or writing about sex 20 hours of the day. And there's, it doesn't really get old, but it's really interesting. I don't know, libido hasn't changed. I just feel like I'm talking about it or writing about it or blogging about it all the time.
I'm like 20 hours a day. Are you sleeping for 4 hours a day?
I mean, there are days when, I get to bed really late. It's not like a common thing.
My
but
God.
I'm either creating curriculum or, I'll stay up late writing blog posts, but I just drew a blank. There was something I just finished up working on a task force. So like literally outside activities, home stuff, like it's all maybe 20 is it's more like 18 maybe. I probably should expand myself a little past everything sex. It's kind of ridiculous.
I'm just a little worried about your only 4 hours. Christ. For me, I would say, I guess this ties in with acts of service. So if I'm super stressed out about a deadline or something, I will put everything else aside for that, which is sad, but it's true. So I would almost need to have someone like kidnap me and like bring me someplace, right? Like take me out of my stress environment so that I could have the freedom to relax. And because otherwise, but I would not, the odds of me doing that myself are slim. Like I would need to be enticed. It would be like, oh my God, that is a really good idea. We should do that.
So outside of online dating, what are your favorite ways to meet potential partners and dates?
Out. Like going to a bar or something like that. Like you just like chatting with people randomly that you meet. I don't know. I love watching people. So like going to, I don't know, like a lounge or something like that, and you see somebody, or like I love having parties and inviting lots of my friends, because then they invite their friends. And I've found that a lot of my friends like my other friends. So that's great, because then they're hooking up with my friends. And I'm like, yay, now everybody's friends. So I don't know. That's my out.
When you said out, I knew exactly what you meant. Like just being out and doing the things that I like to do. If I can find somebody who also likes doing those things I like to do, whether it's dancing or, going to a class to learn how to cook, right? Like if I can find something that I really like to do and then just naturally meet somebody, that's amazing. Because then maybe we have that one thing in common to start with.
What can your partner do to help you feel that you can be open and clear with your requests around sex?
I don't know. For me, I think that's a comfortability thing. And I think it depends on where I am in a relationship with somebody, because there are definitely times where it's like, maybe I don't even care about the person that much, which is so rude, but it's honest. So, where it's like, okay, well, maybe we're just like hooking up and that's all it's ever going to be. But assuming that it's going to be something longer, I think that I think it's about the other person making the woman feel comfortable enough to share all those things.
So what specifically can he do to help you feel that comfort?
I don't know. For me, that's time. I don't know if it's a specific, like anything.
I think when it's worked best for me, it's been when we can have the conversation outside of the bedroom, sitting on the couch or at dinner, being able to talk about whatever the thing is, right? And being non-judgmental about, or non-reactionary, I guess, to what I'm asking. Because if I get even a micro expression of, judgment or irritation or annoyance, I'm not going to ask again. Like, it'll just shut me down. And I'm really good at, or at least I think I am really good at picking up on the little micro, facial expressions of ew or whatever, disgust.
That is really good. I love what she said about doing it outside of the bedroom, because I feel like the opposite usually happens.
Yeah.
You wait until you're definitely already in it, and it's like, whoa, like now we're having this has turned into a research methods project.
Okay. So basically, talk about it outside the bedroom, one. And two, talk about it in a way that's really just accepting of whatever you're saying, I like this, or I want this, or I don't want this for that matter, rather than like, what? Or, being surprised or uncomfortable.
But honestly, that advice goes the same for women too, because if a guy wants to ask for something and the woman gets hurt or, feels judged or feels like she's not enough, the thing that pops into my head is always threesome, right? It's a fantasy for a lot of guys and girls and women to have a threesome. But if you're in the moment if you're not necessarily in the moment, but if you're talking about it and the person feels like, what does that mean? I'm not enough? Does it mean, there's something wrong with me, or I'm not doing it for you? Sometimes it doesn't even mean that you need to actually do the thing. You don't even have to do the threesome. But sometimes people just want to be able to talk about it and fantasize about it. Like maybe they've never had that experience, and so they don't know what it would really be like, but being able to talk about it is important.
What can your partner do to help you feel excited to have sex, later that day, that night, whatever? Is it something that they can help you feel comfortable around or feel excited around? Are there things they can do to sort of make that exciting and interesting?
I guess maybe talking about it, like sending messages like, I can't wait to see you later. Or like, you know what I mean? Like throughout the day, or I don't know. Yeah, like I guess like little things where you're that by the time you actually do see each other, whatever kind of like flirty messages or conversations that you have throughout the day, that by the time you actually do see the person, you're like, yes.
Yeah. So following on that, like what kind of messages, what kind of messages are you thinking of? Because I'm sure there are a lot of guys out there going, okay, hi, how's your day? Is that, the kind of message?
No, like, I don't know, like you're flirting with the person that you like, right? Like sometimes we only flirt with people when we're trying to get to know them, but then we stop flirting with them after we do get to know them.
Yeah. Well, and I'm struggling with trying to come up with a more concrete example because it's not the flirty, like, what's up? And then sending a dick pic, right? Like that's not flirting.
Right. No. So that's part of why I'm asking is,
it's not that.
I can't wait to bend you over the table tonight.
That could be one.
That could be one.
Okay.
But it's also one of those things where you kind of have to be getting there with the person. They can't lead with that, right?
Yeah. Unless you already have that kind of relationship.
Because I don't think I'd be turned on by that as an opener.
Right. Not as an opener.
Right. Do you want your partner to work for it a little? Can you have sex if you're upset about something with your partner?
Oh.
Like makeup sex?
Makeup sex can be good. But if you are upset about something, it depends on the person because sometimes people are soothed by that and others don't want to be touched. So it really, it's really going to
I think it depends on the person and the relationship that you have. Because I could see that too. Where it's like men might look at that as like a stress reliever and women might be like, the fuck were you thinking?
Any last things you really appreciate when men do in dating and sex and relationships?
Okay. I thought of one immediately. So when we're out in public, I'm paying really close attention to how you're interacting with people even other than me. So if you're being disrespectful to wait staff or people at the theater or whatever, that is like
100%. I agree with this.
Yeah, we're not going to go any further. But yeah, because I feel like that also translates to how you're going to treat me. Right? Compassion, caring, respect, all that.
Well, especially because those people are strangers.
Yeah.
There's nothing that to me, when someone's disrespectful for like to wait staff or something like that, it just makes me think like, well, who do you think you are that you can treat these people like this? And what have you made up about these people, the people that are working or whatever, that it's okay to talk to them the way that you are? Yeah. Or to not love them just as much as you would love someone else that was whatever, CEO of something. I was thinking of another one that was good and I can't remember. I feel like little things are big things. Like things that maybe it's as simple as you know what kind of coffee they like and you get it for them, right? Like you snapshot a picture of the label from the Starbucks the next time that they get one so that you can surprise them with it. Like little stuff is big stuff.
That's amazing.
You know?
That just got some that was a really happy expression for the listeners.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be busting out like Louboutins, or another thing would be like listening, like let's say the best gifts I feel like are like you're out together and then you say like, oh my God, that's so cute. And then the person remembers like they love this from this store and they get you that, right? Like it's something that it's not, they asked for it, but you were paying attention enough to the person that you paid attention, like you paid attention and cared enough to make that something that could happen.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a high ticket item either. It could be like you notice what kind of ice cream they order.
Right. If somebody's authentic and opens up about themselves, then I will also. So I think it's so painful when you're like getting to know somebody and you find that you're just sharing, and the other person is like closed. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, well, if you're not going to share, why am I gonna? Mm-hmm. Or not that it's got to be like tit for tat, but if someone like is authentic and vulnerable, then it creates a space for you to be that also. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the relationship could grow faster than if it's like a lot of walls. Yeah. We all have walls.
Yeah, 100%.
There's also, I feel like the more powerful of a female that you are, the harder it is to find a partner because for whatever reason, men decide like, well, they don't need me for anything. But in reality, females do need, like, we can't make out by ourselves, you know? Like, there are lots of things. Maybe we just can't reach things on shelves. Like, there's a lot of things that you could be doing we need you for, you know, whether it's like a sounding board or whatever.
Yeah.
What is it that you'd want to say to men about that?
I guess to know that you're needed and wanted, regardless of whether the person makes whatever, not even that it's a dollar amount, but let's say that the person can completely take care of themselves and financially is like, maybe they make more money than you, maybe they don't, whatever. But like, we wouldn't be interested in chatting with you if we didn't want you and need you in our lives.
I kind of wanted to riff off of what you said about women are weird, because we're weird. You know, there's no question about it.
There's no like straight direct. It's not like what works for one will work for another.
Yeah.
And same with men.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. So I don't know what else I wanted to say about that, but
That's why I feel like the questions are so important. Because, you know, if you just ask for what you want and then take people for their word.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to do that though, because sometimes women will do that double talk thing where they will say what they think they want. They will say what they think you want them to
say.
Yeah, thank you.
But then you're really getting to know someone who's not the person that they are.
Right.
Yeah.
So that will eventually catch up with the woman.
Thanks for listening. To help other men find the podcast, please rate it on iTunes and write a review. Also, I'd love to hear your feedback. Which question did you find most helpful? Email me, greg@makeonlinedatingfun.com. And remember, to get your questions answered, go to makeonlinedatingfun.com/questions.
But dick pics are a constant opener, and I don't get it.
I don't
like,
either.
that's not an opener.
Well, that could potentially be a closer for sure. Like, you could see that and be like,
Never mind.
and I'm definitely busy later.
Yeah, note for the guys. No dick pics.
Yeah,
Seriously,
dick pics.
no dick pics.
And at least groom yourself if you're going to be sending those.
Manscaping is a thing.
That is. Because if you're going to send it, got to know that we're going to be like looking at it. Like really looking.
Oh my god. I have mental images going through my head.
Right?